Right here.
A lot of my friends associate Burning Man with drug use. What do you guys think about that?
According to the census,
You're hanging
it's
around with a
about
couple
an
of
equal,
interesting friends.
per capita drug use as any large city. There's not any more drug use in Burning Man as there is in any large city according to our census that happens.
That's what I tell them.
And I don't drink at all when I go to Burning Man, and this year I'm doing Burning Man completely sober. It's absolutely possible. Personally, I think it's healthier.
Steve has something to say about this, finally.
Yeah, people say that to me a lot, and I say, while Doug does a lot of drugs.
Apparently. Thank you, Steve.
What I say is, on any weekend you go to, or any party you go to, they're serving liquor, they're serving beer, people are drinking coffee, which is speed, and they're smoking cigarettes, and then they're like, oh, Burning Man's a drug event. But that being said, you're there for, as you guys know, a week or longer. I show people any large piece of art or architecture and say, so imagine someone building this on drugs. It may look like they thought of it on drugs, but they certainly didn't build it on drugs. And you just can't. So comparatively speaking, I think, like you said, there's less drugs. And then if you actually look at the event itself, this is not a drug-induced event. It may be a drug-enjoyed event for someone like Doug.
You are also out in the middle of the desert under very, very extreme conditions, and it will prevent you from doing anything incredibly stupid. And if you do something incredibly stupid, like over-enjoy yourself, you will end up in a very, very expensive ambulance ride back to Reno. So if you want to stay at Burning Man, you have to play it cool.
And stay hydrated.
And stay
I think
hydrated.
part of the problem is that for a lot of people, the next cultural reference down for most people is like Woodstock. So it's kind of like, is it like Woodstock? And Woodstock, the B-roll, the footage of Woodstock, you all know it. It's like guy in mud, and I do have mud guy. By the way, they don't do the mud.
They don't do mud
They don't
anymore.
like that anymore. So that's an old era bringer. But it
And you
isn't
don't go
Woodstock.
swimming in the water trucks either.
Right. Is there going to be dust? How am I going to shower? Are people on drugs? No one even asks about the art anymore, or ever have. But it is not Woodstock. It's not an event where you're going to see a concert. It's you are the concert. So it isn't that event. But that's the next cultural reference for most people. They always, is it a hippie event? I'm like, well, there's Thunderdome guys out there with fake machine guns. It's not.
So I'm often asked this from a press standpoint, and the answer that I really have that works for me is when there's something that colorful and that self-expressive, people actually don't often have the context by which they can understand it. It's not a normal festival, we're not selling beer, we're not selling t-shirts, we're not selling food. It's a leap of faith to try and understand the photos that people see. And the only way in which people really can imagine it happening for that period of time is there's an assumption. It isn't even often that people talk to that person who did a bunch of drugs. That's why it's media that asking this question. It's like, it is that leap of, it is that the degree of colorfulness and joy that you can see in a video, you can see in a photo. People just assume that that's the only way to find it is through drugs.
Is it more scary that the guy who is dressed purple is on drugs or is not on drugs? I asked him this question seriously. Like, yeah, he's on drugs. Maybe he's not on drugs.
So, I was going to say we have some.
Did you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
There's also a young lady right there too. You're next.
Okay.
Well, my question's about the art, Marian. I've been working in art museums in LA for 13 years, and there's definitely an aesthetic difference from the art I see in the museum over the past decade and the art at Burning Man. And I'm just wondering if this is ever going to close this gap, or if the Burning Man aesthetic is being recognized in the art community is something apart from just the outsider art, or any artists that have come out of the Burning Man thing that are actually moving into the prominence of, moving up the ranks to, someday a Damon Hirst, from Burning Man.
Actually, there are, to answer your last question first, there are some people who have emerged and to go on to impressive careers in the world at large. One of my favorites and a good friend is Villarreal, who began his career. He's kind of a poster child, but there are many other examples. His first work was, he works with LEDs, and
He started Disorient.
yes, and his first work he didn't really intend it as a work of art. He built a slender pole that had a pole on top of it that put a blinking red light.
He's trying to find his way home at night.
Find your way. And last time I saw him was a couple weeks ago in San Francisco, where he's working with engineers to illuminate the Bay Bridge. He's doing work around the world, actually, in a global career.
Permanent collection, a permanent piece of the National Gallery. He's been commissioned for a number of things, Knox Museum in Buffalo. He's absolutely amazing.
He's got more work
Started at Burning
than
Man.
he can deal with right now, actually. And there were several other emergent artists like that. You know, and at the same time, the Black Rock Arts Foundation, which was founded to disseminate art that related to the aesthetic that has emerged from the desert event, has specialized in particular in recent years in putting art in public places, because if biology was practiced in the desert, the idea of portable monumentality was really attractive to cities. Because whenever you put up a big work of art, the political problem is that someone in the neighborhood doesn't like it. It's going to last forever. They'll fight like dogs and cats over it. But it's only going to be there for a month or two. Hey, people give it a pass, and then you can turn entire cities into galleries, and that's actually on the way to taking place. It's a new kind of civic art, not so much based, civic art used to be about heroic. Well, we're really short heroes anymore, and sensibilities change. And so what can occupy that niche now is the interactive art that communes community around itself, because that's what we need. So that's going on. San Francisco just approved an idea that we had years ago when we started doing art in that city, and it was art pads that you can actually screw works into. You just give the artist that spec, and then and install access to power if you need it. And if you did that in Los Angeles, if you did that, once that catches on, then every city is going to have a rotating collection of large scale. So those are just two things that are going on. I can point to those things.
Well, and here in LA, we're doing the one garden at Carver Garden, and there's 2 sculptures that are going in that garden. But they want us to do 19 more. They love this garden so much that about a week ago they asked me if we could do 20 total in 20 different schools. And they want 2 beautiful pieces of art in each one of the gardens to inspire the kids to create art, even though the art programs have been yanked out of all the schools. So we have places, we have, there's 40 pieces of art now that I need to source, and we have places for them, and they're going to go in middle schools all over Los Angeles.
I was going to touch on was, has the art world begun to recognize? And I think Larry would agree that they have begun to recognize. I think 4 years ago, Art in America came out, which is the first time that art publication came out. And then a year ago, we had an inquiry that someone from Burning Man go to a museum conference with museum directors. And so Harley Dubois, who sits at the city and city manager, she went and spoke and stayed with them for 3 days when they did a retreat about Burning Man, Burning Man's art. It's happening more and more often. They come to us, they're doing a celebration for the anniversary for the Golden Gate Bridge, and they wanted it to be creative and self-expressive, and they came to the Burning Man organization. So we're seeing the art world looking at not just that we do outsider art, but that we have the interactive element to it, community-based element to it.
Let me say a couple other things. Another factor recently is that the Kickstarter. She used Kickstarter about 5 times.
Yeah.
And of course, that's crowdsourcing funding for art. But in our case, of course, I talked to the Kickstarter people in New York recently, and they said, well, it really only works if you have a community to go with it. Those are the projects that succeed. And I asked him how to authenticate something that's real. It's not going to get any money unless there is a community out there, and that will ensure its authenticity. And so it's beyond crowdsourcing, it's community sourcing, so it's understood. And on all the years, any of you ever, those of you who've been to the event, have you ever seen an artwork with a sign with the artist's name on it, sign? We never said you couldn't do that. It's the culture that grew up of itself that indicated to artists that no, first of all, when so much of it is collaboratively done, well, that's a little difficult to sign. Whereas in the normal art world, even if you're collaborating, you leave out those collaborators, and Damien Hirsch wants his name on it alone because that ensures the commodity value in the marketplace. That's what that's all about. But I think that when, say the New York art world, and we've got some recognition there, we've got some champions, but when they start looking, I know a little bit about that world, when they start looking at Kickstarter eventually, it won't be long, and they see these big flows of money going to art, well, this is a whole new way of funding art, which has a wonderful future, and furthermore, those people follow the money. And then suddenly you're going to see critics rushing to get on that hay wagon as opposed to the town. That's just a prediction.